Hi, this is a video of reflections on recovery from addiction, and well, they're my reflections based on my recovery. Um, Today I'm 12 years, 11 months, and 12 days sober, clean, and I'm not a miracle guy, but to me that's some kind of miracle. When I went into treatment, I simply couldn't stop using, couldn't stop drinking. I had a counsellor early on say to me, Peter, can you just stay sober just for a day? And I looked at her and I said, I don't know how to do that. That's beyond me. I said, I don't even know about the sober, but I said, I use every night or every day until I'm unconscious. I said, I've tried to get sober and stuff and I can't do it anymore. Maybe once I could have, and I did a long time ago in my 20s for a period of some years, and 30s, sometimes for some days. But my life changed, and I became a chronic, nightly, sometimes daily, unconscious drunk. And what I'd say to families and friends and addicts who are considering the option of getting some help or getting some treatment, there is hope. And see, I didn't have any when I went into treatment. I had a friend who believed in me. I had counsellors who believed that, I could get sober. My first detox was a medical detox. Now, if you've used heavily enough and for long enough, the risk with coming off the booze cold turkey is that you can go into seizures and end up with brain damage, or have hallucinations and various other things. So I detoxed at home following a very strict regime that my wonderful, wonderful GP had come up with. And over a course of a week or so, I was on Valium, diazepam, whatever you want to call it. Levels peaked up, I think, about day 3 or 4, something like that, when you're most at risk of, seizuring and hallucinating. I'd gone through the CAD system in Tauranga, Community Alcohol Drug Services, and they were awesome, wonderful people. I had a great counsellor there, and was involved in that service when I went through the detox. After a period of time, 6 weeks, I went back to the booze. The 6 weeks sober was 6 weeks of the most miserable experiences for me. Most people, they get sober and they rapidly start feeling better. For me, I slumped into a pretty dark place. And for me, it was almost with a sense of relief that I started drinking again. After a period of time, my counsellor said to me that I needed more help than the service was able to provide. That was honesty, for which I remain grateful to this day. I was referred on to Henma Clinic at Tauranga. And early on, I think first meeting or two with the counsellor there, I said, I don't know that I can get sober, and even if I could, I don't know that I can find a life worth living. I'd long past the stage of feeling very good about myself or how my life was. That last year or two of using, at times I'd look in the mirror at home and I didn't even recognise myself. And at times I did recognise myself, I loathed myself. I loathed how my life had become, and I loathed what a shambles of a life I created for myself. I loathed myself in so many ways. It's hard to adequately describe. Physically, I was nauseated all day, every day. Cannot drink the way I did without ending up pretty ill. Obviously had liver problems, stomach problems. But yeah, the nausea was the thing I remember, I think, most in those later stages of using. Sometimes be so bad when I got home with my alcohol that the smell of the alcohol would make me want to retch, and I'd have to lock down my abdominal muscles until I could consume enough alcohol that I started to sort of feel okay again. But yeah, hope is the thing for me. I didn't have any. I had people who believed in me, the professionals, friends inside and outside of recovery programs, and they had hope on both of the things, that I could actually get sober and that I could find a life worth living. Went through a second detox, and in terms of life experiences, that would be right up with ones I didn't care to repeat. It was pretty unpleasant. And I didn't go into treatment. I think people need to know this. I didn't go in there thinking I've got to change my life, I've got to fix my life. I went into treatment with very mixed feelings, very ambivalent. I was at a point for some time where I was so grounded down in life, the only thing that gave me a sense of relief was to drink until I was unconscious. And then you go into treatment and they want you to give up the one thing that makes you feel slightly less bloody awful about yourself and your life. However, I was sufficiently broken that my outlook on it was, look, just tell me what I need to do. Just do whatever you want with me. I'm done. And I really was done. Absolutely broke, physically and mentally unwell, and spiritually devoid. Over a period of time in treatment, life gradually got better. Everybody's journey is different. Some people rapidly start feeling better, and that's awesome. I was a bit jealous at times because my life ground very slowly towards getting better. The first 6 months of sobriety I wouldn't care to repeat, ever. The shakes, the sweats, the drinking dreams, and the drinking dreams like a nightmare, except it's about 10 times worse than a nightmare. And you go through a period when you can't tell what's real or not. You're not really awake or asleep. But in those early months, often I'd wake up in a sweat-soaked bed, and yeah, just have to change the sheets, go back to sleep. Insomnia was a pretty big thing in those first few months, and I was fortunate to have a lot of support from Hanma Clinic and from the GP around trying to manage those health issues over that time. Today I live very much one day at a time in the program. Those early months at times I was living 5 minutes at a time, just stay sober for 5 more minutes. I try to keep myself busy. I was tearing apart old pallets I'd found, building them into planter boxes, and I'd go through the stage of saying to myself when the cravings were just so bad, it was just 5 minutes. Just for the next 5 minutes, I'm not going to have a drink. And at the end of that 5 minutes, I'll make a decision on whether I'm going to have a drink or not. And I'd get through that 5 minutes. I think, okay, just for 5 more minutes, I'm not going to have a drink. I look back at those early weeks and months when I got sober, and I'm not a miracle guy, but I got sober and I stayed sober, and in time I found a life worth living. The darkness of depression, that became less frequent and less deep. The struggles with anxiety became less intense and of less duration over time. By some, I'm using the miracle word again, I was having liver function tests done every month in recovery because I was pretty crook. And 18 months after I got sober, I'd been in for another test, and I was contacted by my doctor and told that I needed to do another test as soon as possible about my liver function. And for me, I thought, well, if it's liver cancer or whatever it is, if that's it, that's it. This is how I've lived, and I need to accept that's the price you pay. And went and did that, and went and saw the doctor, and she looked at me and she said, your liver functions are normal, Peter. She said, I've never seen this in 20, 30 years of GP practice. She said, people just don't have livers that go from where yours was to where it is now. I think it was coming into that time, the nausea was, it was still every sort of day, but it was quite a few hours less a day. And in time, I stopped living with nausea on a daily basis. That was pretty amazing. The rewards from making the change, look, I have a close connection with family and friends now. There's something very different about it that I prize and value. Late stage using, I might go to some sort of social function or catch up with people for an hour or two, but always had to go, always something I had to do. And I'd come up with some bullshit excuse. The thing I had to do was go home and drink until I was unconscious, and that mattered above all else at that time. So those connections have come back in many cases. My physical health is better. My mental health is better. Look in the mirror these days and I see a decent sort of a guy. Well, I'm perfect, and I'm okay with that. But I like the guy I see, and that's just enormous compared to where I was. In terms of environment, I'm living still in the same flat I was in, late stage drinking. My whole adult life, I think the longest I'd lived anywhere was about 3 years, and on average probably less than 2. And I've been here now for 14 years. It's a little 27 square metre flat, but how I look at it these days is very different. Created gardens and outdoor areas, and this is my home. And just having that stability, I think, probably really helped. I have work that has meaning for me. I've been doing for the last few years. I find it very challenging, very difficult at times, but it has some sort of sense of meaning for me, and there's a real value in that. It's demanding on multiple levels, but there's something, you have a good day at work, things go well, you make progress, and I feel like I'm making a difference in the work I do, and that matters to me. So look, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'm going to wrap it up on a message of hope. and that is whether it's for families or friends or addicts. There is hope in treatment. Life can get better. If anybody tells you it's easy, well, that's interesting. That hasn't been my experience. But I have a life worth living today, and that has made my recovery worth it. I'll leave it there. For anybody out there who is short of hope at the moment or doesn't have any and is trying to deal with or work with somebody with addiction, yeah, there is hope. There are no guarantees, but if you engage with it, there is the chance for a far better life. Thanks for listening.